afternoon. Welcome once again back to one of the greatest shows in the most talked about black community in the Western world. That is the Kenyatta Show. This afternoon I want to take the opportunity to remind some of those who are coming along, particularly the young peoples. It may not do no good, but at least the story is going to be told.
Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. So I did that for Reverend Vernon Williams. Him and I initially met Reverend Kenyatta. I thought that'd bring a little smile to your face.
Yeah, it surely did. I'm fighting back tears, actually, yeah.
You know, that was our buddy.
Yeah.
That was our buddy. Yeah. I mean, this Reverend Kenyatta, in case you didn't know, was a bodyguard for Malcolm X. And I learned a lot of the history about Malcolm from Reverend Kenyatta. And I thought it was nice that we review that past that we have and connect to an old friend.
Yeah.
He's been dead almost 8 years now.
Yeah, I miss him dearly.
He was a good guy, man. And he related to me a lot of stuff that, people don't know about history, man. Mm-hmm. And you might look at Reverend Kenyatta every Sunday at 5 o'clock, channel 34. You enjoy it. A lot of good stuff on there. Well, welcome to the show, Reverend Williams.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
And we have another good friend of ours, Reverend Sharpton, who's also in the news daily. And I understand there was a little incident with a couple of pastors in Harlem, bad-mouthing Reverend Sharpton. And you took offense to it, of course, like most of us.
I didn't understand what the volley was, but I know all of the pastors save one. I know Reverend Al Sharpton, and I spoke to everyone except for Reverend Al Sharpton and Pastor Johnny Green. Mm-hmm. And it's really not as people are trying to build it up to be. It's not hating on Reverend Al Sharpton or anything like that.
But the Daily News,
I just think that the people in the Daily News were trying to sell ink and using whatever information that they got in a closed conversation to their benefit.
Okay.
Somebody needs to maybe levy a lawsuit or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm sure about this. There is no holy war in Harlem with the Harlem pastors.
Okay.
As a matter of fact,
that's what they said.
Right. As a matter of fact, prior to all of this, we've been working on doing a collective work, and in its original thought, it was going to be the 2020. 20 pastors and community leaders sitting down in a room with 20 young people who, quote unquote, maybe gang members, whatever the case, and trying to find ways to not only maintain, but to go forward by planting seeds of prosperity. Mm-hmm. Michael Waldron is a part of that.
Oh, great.
I have at least 45 pastors right now that are a part of that, that have signed on, including the Reverend Al Sharpton. Okay. So for someone to insinuate that the pastors are in a holy war and not working together is just nonsense. Me personally, with what I do with people in the community,
right.
As far as violence,
right.
I've worked with all of these pastors. When little Annie was murdered by her brother, it was Johnny Green who opened up his church.
Okay.
And it was Reverend Erskine, Pastor Erskine, who was with me in the Polo Grounds.
Okay.
When one of my twins, one of my beloved twins, was killed, walking his girlfriend to the train station.
Oh my goodness.
It was Carl Washington who helped me to facilitate the safety of the other twin. When a couple of my twins were a death threat was out on them, a kite, a murder was out on them. It was again Pastor Washington who helped me to facilitate their safety. So for someone to insinuate that the brotherhood of love, it's not a brotherhood of love. It's only vindictive. And I have to say this. There's something that I've noted in 54 years of my lifespan. Every October And then right come around Easter, people are always trying to bash the Christian church. Maybe some of it is right, it should happen. Maybe some of it should happen. But there's always something that someone is trying to put into the pot, to stir the pot. I note that this type of confrontation doesn't happen in other communities. It doesn't happen in the Asian community.
Okay.
You know, when you consider the source,
Daily News.
Daily News, what is the intent of the reporter and the editor in putting out misinformation? And the real definition of misinformation is lies.
Right. Like the
They're trying,
Republicans?
as you said, Owen, their objective is to sell papers.
Yeah.
This is not the pastors of L.A. or whatever that stupid show that just came out recently. We're not playing that game here in New York. And reporters will oftentimes embellish, attempt to provoke. I was interviewed by NBC in high school. Two guys had a simple fight in high school. One guy was white, one guy was black, and Ralph Penza tried to turn it into a racial incident. It wasn't a racial incident. And I told him, I said, don't even come here trying to insinuate that and have people get stirred up over the fact that now we have a racial problem in this particular high school. So you have to read past and you have to read through what you're reading when it's presented, and especially when you can reach out to people that know the truth.
Now let me, you know, I'm not this type of person that I don't want to be hypocritical. I want to keep it above. When criticism goes, I've criticized against pastors.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
and I've said,
Sure,
you know,
it's true,
you know,
it's
especially when it has to do with violence in our streets and why we're not coming together and working
Right,
together. That's what
right.
started this whole movement that we have working now. My criticizing, my talking about, you know, just like Al does.
Yeah.
If Al sees, he'll start criticizing and talking about something. But again, you know, Reverend Al Sharpton, you know, when I was doing Positive Presence for Peace on the corners, he wasn't there for a minute.
Yeah. But he
then
came out.
when little
Yeah.
Lloyd Morgan was murdered,
That's
he
right.
says, "No, we're taking a stance."
Right.
And that
right.
if did nothing else, what that did was
Yeah,
heighten the work that I was doing.
Part of what that
Yeah.
underlines for us is that we need to be attentive as to what media we give our focus to, and we need to be attentive to each other.
Right.
Because Joe Blow can put together a headline sensational talking about the four of us. Well, we haven't sat down in a room for X number
I
of
bet
months,
they're gonna
and that
talk
means
about
that
this
we have a
conversation
few.
here.
Of
So,
course,
but
we
that's to
expect
sell
that.
papers. What we have to be conscious of is that there is a motive for people to put lies and spurious matters into the papers. What we also have to be conscious of is that we have the opportunity with media such as the Winston Gilchrist Show that we can hear people who are
Right.
talking to our community, about our community, without any financial motive or gain
Right,
being
exactly.
a hidden
Exactly.
reason for them.
Exactly.
Newspapers do things to sell papers. That's what
Right,
they're about,
right,
making money
right,
selling
right,
papers.
right.
The media, the same thing with the broadcast network. They want your eyeballs, and they make so many dollars by counting the number of eyeballs who watch them. So they have a motive to tell certain things that are not truthful. We have to be attentive to media that gives us truth. Again, I would commend people, some of the work that's done here at Everyman, some of the work that you've been doing, Brother Gilchrist, and some of the work that's even being done by some of the media people of the National Action Network. Understand who gives you the truth and how we benefit from the truth. Also, we have to educate, particularly some young people, understand who gives you lies
Right.
and how they benefit, quote, profit from the lies. That's part of what we have to educate our people so we can be educated consumers of information and distinguish the misinformation from what the truth is.
Well, everyone knows my pet beef with us as a people is how we treat each other. I mean, this is a problem. I don't blame the white man for nothing.
Which again is not hashed out in the media. I mean.
You know?
We demand more of each other, as we should. Brothers demand more of each other.
We should be more concerned how we treat each other than how other people treat us. This is the problem.
Yes.
We're crabs in the barrel most of the time, jealous of each other, or it's a skin complexion problem. Or
You the house Negro, I'm the field Negro.
You know what I mean?
Well, I got to get my bacon from the backyard. Yeah.
and we're grown now. I mean, but it's still going on, and we haven't caught on. I mean, I've heard black people talk about Obama and don't like him because his mother was white.
Our commitment to truth has to be preeminent.
Amen.
And that's part of what will take us forward. As
Okay.
we recognize, when I have this Brother Graham and he's speaking before certain audiences, he may say things I may not like, but I have to understand that the man has a commitment to truth.
Right.
So that I may disagree with him, but for me to go behind his back or go to some microphone and some ex-reporter and say,
Yeah.
well, I think he's lying. No, I may disagree with him, but I understand his commitment to truth. And that's
Okay.
part of what we have to recognize and affirm in each other, and certainly in our leaders. There is a commitment to truth that they've exercised. Certainly all of the gentlemen who are here today, that's something that is years long.
Okay.
No new guys on the block.
At Gil Noble's funeral or homegoing, I remember Minister Farrakhan spoke,
up. Right.
and he said something quite profound. He said, I did not understand Martin. He says, and I did not understand Malcolm.
Wow.
He said, Martin was right, and Malcolm was right.
There you go.
He said, and as I've grown and gotten older and wisdom
Right.
has caught me,
Well,
I see the error in my thinking back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
A revelation.
we can disagree, and we can sit and talk and deliberate over an issue. But at the end of the day, what are we going to do for our people?
That's right.
that's what's important.
That's the key thing.
Right.
The March on Washington, which was organized by a small group of men, they had personal matters and issues, but that was not the focus of their life and their commitment. Their focus
Are you
was upon
talking
the
one or
people.
50 years?
63?
Okay.
Yeah,
Or
63.
Yeah.
Yeah.
50 years ago.
You know, the focus was on the needs of the people. And no, everybody did not like the idea that Malcolm or Martin were commenting on the things that they were commenting on. They told Martin, you ought to stay in the pulpit, deal with civil rights. You got no business talking about the Vietnam War.
Yeah, well, that's,
Okay.
that got him killed.
A lot of people didn't like that. But the fact is that you got to speak truth into power. You've got to address what is right as opposed to what is wrong. And the philosopher Burke said the only thing, what was it? All that is necessary for evil to triumph is that good men do nothing.
Right.
So as you push forward in trying to bring peace in the streets of Harlem, and some pastors are slow to catch on, but if they catch on later, that's fine. But you don't stand still waiting for everybody to join. Sometimes in life you have to step out there by yourself and do what you got to do. And it's not about glory or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just that you have that passion.
Yeah.
I think the pastors put it most eloquently to me when I was speaking with them over the phone. Each of us have a given talent.
Right.
And I do what I do.
God-given
And
talent.
I'll meet you at the crossroad with my talent.
Right.
But I got to stay in my lane.
Right.
And you have to respect that. I
Rev-
find myself upset when someone will use that for a negative report. It's not fair to where we're trying to go as a people. Reverend Dr. Charles Kenyatta always say, somebody always trying to kick the shovel out my hand.
Right.
In
Right.
instance, what he was saying is that every time he's in a position to get him a scoopful,
Yeah.
there comes that person trying to take away the benefit of his efforts because they haven't put in any work, because they are envious, because they are jealous. And some would say that that's a crab barrel mentality. I think it's by design. I think that there is a populace.
But we don't have to go for the design.
We have
You
to
know?
recognize it.
You
Recognize
have to-
that people
that's
outside
why
this
we're
room
talking
would
about
rather
it.
we not speak together.
Of course,
recognize
it's
that.
planned genocide. But we have to understand
That's
it's
a level
planned
two.
genocide.
Yeah,
right?
that's a level two. But what we have to recognize is that, like this, we're not a power base. But like this,
Right. Okay.
they know we're a power base.
Right.
They don't want
Exactly.
all the preachers, black preachers, to come together.
Right.
They don't want all the grassroots black leaders to come together.
That's right.
Because if we come together, we are a power base that cannot be denied.
Right.
Housing, fair housing. I gotta qualify what I'm talking about.
Right.
Fair housing.
Right.
Equitable jobs.
Right.
I'm not talking about minimum wage jobs. I'm talking about jobs that you
Right.
can live off of. We're health care.
Right.
Food.
Especially health.
Come on, food. We don't even get decent food. Let me check that, because we just started getting decent food above 110th Street because of gentrification.
Right.
So
Yeah, past 135th Street, we're still getting junk.
yeah, still getting junk in the 40s. You know?
I mean, Pathmark right there on 145th Street. You have to watch what they put in the freezer there.
Yeah.
You know,
So
it's questionable.
And again, there is a contingent, if you will, that doesn't want that unification. They don't. Black solidarity has been something that's been conversated about for decades.
Always.
Generations.
It's always been a
But
problem.
when you look, there's still no black solidarity.
Well, yeah, the reason why I always play this opening piece about Malcolm and his last few words at, what was it, Oxford, where he said he'd work with anybody.
Right.
And he became a revelation. He had the problem with Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the young teenage girls that he had running. Well, I brought up this subject matter yesterday to one of the fellows. He thought it was all right that Elijah Muhammad had 6 or 7 teenage girls, and he saw nothing wrong with it. Well, you know, plenty of old men. I said, but here you got a man preaching morals, and he's amoral. And he's what? I mean, what if people found out about it? Malcolm found out about it, and it broke his heart. That's what killed Malcolm. He lost respect for his leader. And people ganged up on him because he recognized that the leader was flawed.
Part of our challenge is to recognize the focus and the goal and not be distracted by the other things. Because you talked about housing, talked about schools, talked about health. These are things that are necessary for our community. But if I were to focus on whatever the faults, whatever the foibles are of somebody who's in a position of leadership in the health field, we may never get to the point where we get equitable health care for our community. So we have to remember that the goal is more important than the individual. So rather than spend a whole lot of time focusing on individuals, and there are no individuals who are perfect, you know, rather than focus on imperfect individuals, our focusing on the goal is part of what's necessary, particularly understanding that there are people watching us. There is an audience that is attentive to us, and there are people, the slightest thing, if I should pick a piece of lint off the brother's jacket, next thing you know, somebody's going to say, well, did you see what happened? That kind of nonsense feeds certain people.
Gossip is a $1 billion business.
This is the point. And the gossip is all across the nation before the truth leaves the room. That's part of what we have to do. So our focus, our challenge, is to focus on the issues. We have to understand that individual personalities, you know, cannot be the focus of our discussion, because our children's health, our housing, all of these things are much more important than the individuals. And that's part of what we also have to say to some of our children who are caught up in, whether it be People magazine or whether it be whatever the other young magazine that they're reading, they're caught up in all these individualisms, but nobody stops to tell them, wait a minute, let's focus on the fact that all these people are, you know, they have common goals, education, housing, health. And that's a challenge, quite frankly, of some of the elders. We have to sometimes address youth and say, you know, I don't want to talk about how short her skirt was. That's not important. What's important to me is that she did a free concert in the school for the children, and the Board of Education needs to be supporting having entertainers in our schools to be able to lead some of our children, to pull them ahead of where they are, so that they don't get distracted by the nonsense which sometimes fills up the newspapers.
Yeah. Well, you deal with education, and you're talking about education, and we're talking about how we hurt each other with our own interviolence. And this is even more important when we talked about it. Well, I've got another roll-in of June from National Action Network. She took offense to this what the Daily News said. Let's run that clip, and we'll be right back at you. Okay?
You see it needing to be done. That is what we do in this space. People walk in here with housing problems. They don't have food. They don't have clothes. They have all types of issues. We stop. We find resources.
Tell us who you are and what happened yesterday in the Daily News.
Oh, well, my name is June like the month, Moses like the Bible. And on page 4, there was an exclusive in the Daily News where 4 right reverends here were very unhappy with Reverend Al Sharpton. It says that he's not doing anything locally, which is something I personally take umbrage with. And I take umbrage because basically what you're saying is he's paying me to sit here and do nothing for 11 hours out of a day, every day for 5 days, and another 4 to 5 on Saturday.
So your position here is what?
I'm the crisis manager, so when people come in the door and they have crisis, they have an issue, say it be a NYCHA issue, they need an attorney because there's some criminal situation, they were stop and frisk, they don't have food, they don't have clothing, they had one lady, she was burnt out of her home through no fault of her own and didn't have assistance. And we pool as many resources as we can to make sure that we can help people. No, there's some days we pull out of our own pockets to feed people because they're hungry. So we really are, these people are going to go to the media to express their displeasure when I don't even know who these people are. I've never been to their church. What are their congregations about? Are they one of these prosperity churches? I don't know, but I do understand that unless you've been in here and you've walked a mile in my shoes and tried to help people with anything, you got to be prepared for anything that comes in this door working in this space. And if that's not what you're doing, all you're doing is complaining, you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. You mad because what, Joe Loda didn't come kiss your ring? All you got to do is schedule an appointment, he'll come. What politicians want to know is where are the registered voters, not how many people are sitting in your church. They want to know if they're registered to vote. If they're registered to vote, they will be there to talk to them. They go and talk to anybody who's registered to vote. The reason why politicians come to the National Action Network is because we are known for making sure that people are registered to vote and understand their rights. And everybody did come through here because they had a captive audience to explain their positions. Republican, Democrat, Independent, regardless who it is, they had that opportunity. So again, how dare these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse come up with what they came up with? I'm very disgusted and I take umbrage because I work really hard in this space.
Tell me again what you do here?
I'm the crisis manager here at National Action Network. When people come in with a crisis, we pool our resources. We try to refer to the attorneys that we've made relationships with. I have girlfriends who work in other organizations who I call them up to help people. So again, how dare that? I really am disgusted by that. And hopefully they will see the error of their ways and try to get a retraction printed, because it shouldn't come from any place else, from the very people who took it there. If they wanted to promote what they're doing, then that's what they should have done in that space. They didn't have to throw dirt on somebody else to prove their point. You want to build a base? Fine. We can even partner. That's what the word partner means. We don't always have to agree, but we don't have to do that and run off to other people to run our mouths about stuff. Nobody appreciates that. But God bless them.
God bless you, my sister. Thank you. Now that's National Action Network. Now what is she talking about? She's talking about every nut on the planet calls and wants to speak to Al. Al can help me with this. Tell Al about that. And with that's the ground roots. That's what happens at National Action Network. I've sat there at that table, and you'd be shocked to see the psychological, neurotic problems black people have. And everything comes to man. And it's really surprising sitting at that table watching what
I honestly think that happens with anyone that's in the business of serving God's people.
Okay.
So I as June was talking, I identified. I felt her passion because I know what goes down. I know how a lady will call you in the middle of the night and say, my house just got burnt out and I need help. And then you'll get on. I'll get on my network and I start listening to this person, and then they need this X, Y, and Z, and come out the pocket and be feeding people. We understand that, and we even understand the frustration of that.
Right.
Again, and she even said it too. It's the partnering that makes it easier.
Right.
Because I know what you're doing, and I know what your talent is. And I know what you're doing, and I know what your talent is, and I know what Brother Man's talent is. And now we're moving together as a positive force to really make change in our community.
Right.
Here's the kicker: in the interim, and I suggested that twice a year it happens. Right, comes those other entities to break the link. To have me start bickering with you, and to have me start to look to this one to get this one to partner up with me and start bickering with you.
Right.
Because they don't want us to have solidarity.
Okay.
And it's purposeful.
Reverend Sharpton was at my church a few months ago, and my pastor said, and you spoke about staying in your lane.
Right.
Because people will constantly come to the preacher and say, well, could you do this or would you do that? And would you do? A pastor needs to know what his assignment is. My pastor said, I don't do what Reverend Sharpton does.
Right.
But we will support Reverend Sharpton in what he does. He handles that type of thing. I handle this type of thing. And somebody else handles something else. But we support one another. And that is the key factor here. The support. If everybody did the same thing, what would ever get done?
Right.
Not much.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
No.
So until you need a medical doctor, you might be in the best of health. I got sick this summer, walked in the hospital, my doctor called me, says, get to the hospital. The doctors at the ER were like, you're not supposed to be here, you should have been dead already. But thank God it's not incumbent upon them to determine whether I live or die.
Amen.
But in the same sense, I thank God that there are people educated who have studied, who have applied themselves to the field of medicine to help me with regard to my problem. Otherwise, I would ultimately have died. So, although it is not your field, it's not your lane, pastor, reverend, does not mean congregation. You have evangelists, you have preachers, you have pastors, you have bishops, different functions, and teachers, different functions, all within the church. And the body of the church can't run without all of those facets. You know the verse about the toe and the hand, I'm better than you are. And this is the mentality that's being espoused here, that one should and could do without the other because the other is not as significant or the other one is failing to do what they should do. And if it was an issue, they should have come to the individual and say, I'd like to talk to you about such and such. Has nothing to do. And lastly, I'm going to be quiet. You don't have to answer a question because a reporter asks you a question.
Yeah.
I've had to shut down some reporters in press conferences and talk. That's none of your business.
Well, I understand the reporter took it completely out of context.
Right.
Well,
As they
you've
often
got to
do
be
if they'll get a headline or if they'll get a pat on the back from their editor.
You sit down and you have a conversation with them, and they'll listen to the whole conversation, and they'll listen for that pepper statement. And it's that pepper statement that they'll build their
That'll be the
article on.
headline.
They're always looking for something negative that they can go to. They don't print the good news, they're printing bad news. And that 90% of what's in the paper is bad news.
Well, I know my biggest experience has been, I do the National Action Network program on Saturdays at 7:30, Channel 34. I've been doing this for, 12, 13 years. So every Saturday at 7:30, you'll get Reverend Sharpton on National Action Network, and it's an hour. You get the sermon at the Saturday sermon of the rally. And I've taken, one of the rallies and broken it down into a show, and see the comparison with the daily news. NBC, ABC, and what they put together and what they saw, and completely different than I've been a witness to. So the media is always pulling their slant on things.
When we were doing the trial in Poughkeepsie,
Right.
the civil trial with Alton Maddox, C. Vernon Mason, and Reverend Sharpton concerning Tawana Brawley, people today still don't know.
What happened?
They're misinformed. It wasn't a criminal trial. Tawana Brawley wasn't there. She wasn't convicted or found guilty of anything. But the media that was there, the New York Times, the Daily News, the Post, the Post, the Poughkeepsie Journal, none of them ever reported what was going on in that courtroom on any given day. Even when we established the fact that Harry Chris was murdered and he didn't commit suicide.
Harry Chris was who?
He was murdered. He was a police officer that was murdered in Poughkeepsie. He's
who was he?
He's more than one police officer that was murdered in Poughkeepsie where the case was just
But he was
swept
one
under
of the
carpet.
people that raped.
He was one of the suspects, yes, definitely.
And he was about to talk.
He
Or
and
something?
Pagonis got into it. He pulled his gun on Pagonis, threatened to shoot him. 2 or 3 days later, he winds up dead, alleged suicide. And Alton said to me, he says, we only have one photo, I need to know what we can do. Should I call the ME? I said, yeah. I said, look, from looking at the photo, I said, this is a homicide, it's not a suicide.
So now, what you just related just now is something that went on 25 years ago, right? And people are
what,
probably just hearing the truth.
1987?
Yeah.
Okay? So now, if we had the show then and could possibly bring out the truth then, we might have saved a lot. She's paying, is she paying
She's paying now,
Pagonis?
right? They went after her.
They went out.
Salary.
Pagonis was coming to Brooklyn on a regular basis,
Okay.
stalking Reverend Sharpton, and he didn't even know it.
Ah.
He didn't even know it. But I had the information, I let him know. This was after the fact that I found out, but I let him know. I said, you know, that guy was coming to Brooklyn, following you.
Whoa.
And he
From
wasn't
upstate
alone.
New York.
From upstate New York. And
Well,
he was not
well
alone.
connected anyway, wasn't he?
His father was a judge.
Okay.
You know, Dutchess County is like
Rich.
Alabama 1959.
God.
When we were up there doing the trial.
Whoa.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And the
This is
black
New
people
York.
there, right, the black people there, you can see in their faces that
Fear.
they don't feel comfortable in the town that they live in.
Whoa. Oh.
It's important to have perspectives
Okay.
other than what appears in the headlines. And again, this is part of what I would challenge some of our friends, neighbors, listeners to do, that what is in the headline is not the entire story.
Right.
Okay, the headline is going to be that John Boehner and his friends in Congress finally agreed to a national budget. That's the news that's coming off the wire, even as we meet today. That might be the headline. But there are things we have to be alert to. What was it behind the story? What trades were being done? What is being done? And we have to be very alert to next year's elections, the midterm elections, what horses were being traded. And this is something that's going to affect us a great deal. Yes, we have to pay for the 18-day delay in passing a budget. That's going to cost us because there are millions of dollars that have to be repaid really in interest for the budget that wasn't passed on time. That's part of it. But we also have to understand, you know, what things are sub rosa. And this is where it becomes valuable that we know who the people are in our community who have access to information. On some things, we will have people who are here who might have access to information. On some things, it might be Mrs. Jordan down the hall who knows something about the Department of Education. Or it might be Mr. Joseph who lives down the block, might know something about what's going on in terms of HPD. And that kind of interaction that allows us to exchange information that will not ordinarily make it into the headlines is what's critical for us. And that's part of what, again, I think the value of this show and some of the other things, some of the media that we control. Because we have access to media and we have access to newspapers. Some of the things that's being said and being done in our newspaper and our media, you will not find covered elsewhere.
Right.
And we have to value that. You know, and it's
you
more than just
look
the
at
Amsterdam News.
Politics Nation. We got a call on the line, but you look at Politics Nation. You know, at 6 o'clock every night. I mean, Rev comes up with stuff that
He
nobody
covers
else
stuff that
talks
no
about.
other. Well, he's not a reporter, but the other reporters.
But he
he'll add
reports.
what he has.
And I don't know anybody else can break it down better than Rev. His analysis is usually on the money.
And his access to
All right?
information.
So let's take a caller, okay? Who's on the air?
I'm Ted, brother. The panel.
Yes,
Kareem from Harlem.
Kareem.
I just want to ask y'all one thing, brother. What do y'all think about this racist America and the way that the people are disrespecting our president,
Oh,
right?
shit.
And disrespecting our community? And what I'd like to know is, do you think it's going to get any worse? And furthermore, how you doing about Reverend Vernon Williams? What y'all think about Obama being a constitutional law professor, right? And it's something in the Constitution that says that if the people is acting the way the people is acting in Congress and the Senate and the House is doing, they could be recalled and brought up on treason and traitorous charges as Snowden and Bradley is. And I'd like to have y'all respond on that issue. Thank you.
Well, there
You know,
was a poll-
I couldn't have put it better, but you know, I know Obama's laying in the cut. You know, and he's got some stuff up his sleeve. Just the way he let everybody see what kind of fools we got to deal with, he let the world see what kind of stupid, racist, whatever, fools we got running the Republican Party. I mean, he just laid out there and laid the rule and let them respond. Now, Ted Cruz is a classic example of a, not even born in America, matter of fact, ambitious to running for president, obviously against Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, which is what? Health insurance for 30 million people? How could you try and stop something like that? I mean, what is that? How much he's being paid? And you see, the nonsense didn't stop until the Koch brothers made a few announcements.
But remember, the United States, and Kareem, you're absolutely right. This is treason.
Of course it is.
These are treasonous acts.
Of course it is.
That go back to the first inauguration,
right.
The night of the first inauguration,
right.
when they conspired.
That's right.
To, as they say, bring this man down.
That's right.
But they're bringing the country down.
That's right.
Because of his skin color.
That's right.
I just need to ask a question to the viewers and to you brothers here. Tell me one other president that they demanded to see his birth certificate.
Well,
okay, you want to know who I am, and I got to pull up my ID and everything. But just tell me one other president.
But it's even
and
worse.
John McCain, by the way, was born outside the United States.
It's even worse when we start.
When John McCain was born there.
It's even worse when we start talking about him. I mean, I look at Cornel West and Tavis Smiley and Phil Valentine, who's got him as an illegitimate son of Malcolm.
I think that those criticisms.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, but I think that those criticisms just spur good thought and good conversation. You know, I was with one of my colleagues, Sister Washington. You know, she was talking about, what has Obama done for the black community? and I tried to make something perfectly clear to her, that he's just not the president of the black community.
Right.
He's the president of America.
When he saved the United States from going into default,
and if you want to say what he's done for the black community, you look at the Affordable Care Act.
Yes.
Who dies the most in the emergency room?
Who
benefits most from health insurance? We do as a people. So what has he done for us? He's trying to get, and what do the crackers want to do? They want to knock that out the box.
We have to.
So the insurance company make more money.
Make more money.
And it can deny people coverage because a precondition.
More pills. Right.
We have to be alert.
Exactly.
Certainly, not just this election where the New York mayoral thing is the headlines, but we have to be alert for the elections coming up in terms of those people in Congress who did all means of subterfuge to prevent the budget from going through. We have to be alert to those people who make their reputations in small towns speaking behind the president's back about how the president is not aiding all of America, when in fact they're speaking to their own little groups of people. We have to be alert to that, and we have to prepare not just a month from now for the New York elections, but we have to understand there are some politicians who spent more than a year frustrating the national effort to have a balanced budget, and some of those politicians, quite frankly, need to be punished. Because the same way that they punish some of the people who have our children in daycare by not funding daycare programs, the same way that they punish some of our people who had the budgets and their households going into foreclosure because the money was not made available, some of those politicians need to be punished. So in direct response to the brother's question, we need to be alert, and we need to be aware of who the people are who are serving in Washington, who are not serving us, and they need to be out of office.
But see, you've got a government here that's been doing a lot of wrong for a lot of years, and for a brother to walk in and try to clean it up is almost impossible. All right, especially after 8 years of Bush. And Illuminati and all the crap that they did for 8 years.
$1 billion deficits.
And they shot us in the tank. This man has stabilized America, and still they're chipping at him every inch of the way. And for them to put out and shut the government down for trying to give 30 million people health insurance. All right? They want,
which is the norm, by the way, in most countries outside the United States.
We got one more call. Let's see what the caller's got to say. You might say something interesting. All right.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
How you doing? This is Brother Rod from Harlem, otherwise known as Son of MJQ. How you doing?
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
Gilchrist?
man. You never left your number last time. I couldn't call you.
Okay, well, you know something? Can you get it off? I'm sure you guys have it on your phone down there. You know, so just take it off of there. But I just want to say
No, we
something.
don't have it on there.
Okay,
Go ahead.
well,
Go ahead, brother.
Well, I just want to say something. We see that the mainstream media does not like to see black man in charge. We see what's going on with Obama. We even, you mentioned the article on Reverend Sharpton, which I read the other day.
You did.
But one of Reverend Sharpton's mentors, who's my main man, Mr. James Brown, who was, in my opinion, a civil rights icon in his own right.
That he was.
When he stopped the riots across the country when Martin was killed.
All right.
When he walked through the streets of Harlem and saw the burning and the destruction going on and said, please stop. Reverend Sharpton once said that the white people see that a black man can start a riot, he can also stop one. And I remember an article in Look magazine in 1970 where it had James Brown on the cover. It said, is James Brown the most important or powerful black man in America? And as soon as he got to that point, the white men did their best to take him down, investigate him, investigate his taxes, and all this other mess. And you know, this stuff needs to stop. Like some of the songs say, we have the solid individually, and we don't need that. We need to come together. We need to be a people, and we need to just be as one. And let's stop hating and let's start creating. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suleiman. Thank you.
Next caller, please. Let's take the next caller.
Hello.
Yes.
I was very happy to be able to take care of some things medically because of Obamacare.
Oh, thank goodness.
Amen.
Yeah, there
Amen.
you go.
So when I hear people talk about even like medicine and things of that nature, you know, not generic medication, but medications that, you know, are needed. And when I think about, there are a lot of things that, you know, I was able to take care of. So I don't really understand. Sometimes we have chitlin circuit mentality.
Yeah,
like
there you go.
Anywhere.
I like that.
And we get very angry with one another.
Yeah.
I personally, you know, when I go to the drugstore, I say, thank you, President Obama, because I got what I needed and I did not have to, you know, pay government fees and things of that nature. So I'm very happy with what he's doing.
Thank you for calling, sis.
I might mention that this Saturday, between 12:30 and 3:30, we're having an Affordable Care Act seminar at National Action Network. This Saturday coming, the 26th, right?
You know, it's interesting.
Is that next Saturday? That's the Saturday after next.
This Saturday.
This Saturday is the 26th.
A week from Saturday.
A week from Saturday. Okay. I'll announce it next week again.
That when the Affordable Care Act came into play and the website went up, so many people seeking health care went online,
Of course.
the site crashed.
Of course.
Now, if people
Of
didn't
course.
need the help, the site would not have crashed.
Right.
I'm blessed. I consider myself very blessed. I have health care for life. It's part of my pension package. Dental. I have everything.
Beautiful.
But most of America doesn't have that.
Right.
The people who have tried to corral this bill
They will
and
have health
eviscerate it, they have medical coverage. You only need to serve one term in the U.S. Congress and you have a pension. You have
One
a pension.
term?
One term.
A pension?
They have a pension. They have health care. Their wives have health care. They've got it.
Oh, my goodness.
But
They've got it.
Here's what's astonishing about that. The actions that they took to shut down the government, if it was for the benefit of the healthcare, to stop the healthcare, it was already a done deal.
Yeah.
It was
It was
already
law.
so
It's
why
established law.
persist?
So,
because
yeah.
their ideal wasn't just to stop the health care, it was to shut down President Obama and everything that he was doing. It wasn't just about the health care.
It was about a black man running the country. That's all it was.
The president.
I mean, we saw it as racism, but nobody called it racism. So Obama had to sit and take all this, because he knew eventually these people would make the fools out of themselves that they did, because it was foolish in the first go.
So the sickness of racism is that the people are so blind they can't see when they're cutting their own throats.
Yeah.
Well,
they can't see it.
It shows
this is my
the
reference
ignorance.
to next year's elections.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Well,
those,
these callers are interesting. Let's see what the caller has to say. Any other? Go ahead, next caller, please.
Hello?
Yes.
Afternoon.
Speak up.
Hello?
We can
Speak
hear you.
up. Turn down the
Hi, can
television.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, how are you today?
Okay, good.
I just want to thank you guys for what you're doing. You know, I'm a white guy, and
That's
I live
okay.
all the way uptown in Upper Manhattan.
Good.
And, you know, you bring everything to surface. You know, I live uptown. I live in a multi-racial community here, and I see this every day.
Right.
And what goes on within the African American community, the Latino community, and I take the M60, the bus, every day through 125th Street, and it's just it's horrible what goes on, and you know, and what in the community, and nobody sees the light. You know, and it seems like white America lives in a bubble. And it's about time that somebody's actually bringing it to surface, and hopefully, you know, more and more people watch this show.
Tell your
And
friends.
see what's going on in the community.
Let me ask you one question. What would you say to the Tea Party about what they're doing? What would you say to them?
Well, what I say to the Tea Party?
What would you
what
say
I do,
with your experience?
yeah, they need to really step back, you know, and they most of the Tea Parties, you know, they come from the South, in these little communities in out in Long Island and Westchester. They don't really understand where the real people live. You know, they live in these little make-believe lands, and where everything is great, nothing ever goes wrong, and these white picket fences. And they really need to come out and to live in the cities and see how the real people live, and they would see the struggle that everyday life is, you know, and it's not so easy. It's not all picture perfect as they think it is.
What made you aware?
What made me aware? Well, I grew up in the South Bronx, so I'm down for it.
Well, hey, people are people. You found that out, right?
That's right. You know,
Amen.
And now I live in Linwood, in Upper Manhattan by Dykeman.
No, well, we embrace you as another human being, my brother.
You know, and it's just I never fit in with the other side, so I fit in with the more of the black community.
You fit in with the human race and not with the races.
That's it. It's not a matter of color.
Right.
It's a matter of your heart, man.
Thanks for
And
calling.
that's what we're judged by, your heart and how it, tempers. If you can put up with injustice, then something's wrong with you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And,
Injustice against anybody. Thank you for your call.
Thank you. And keep
God
doing your
bless.
good work.
Take care.
Next caller, please.
Hi, everybody. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and all you young men and brothers. New joy and success be with you with your wonderful work of good that you're doing in the community. Just about every time when I wake up in the morning, when I give my gratefulness, when I say what I'm so grateful for, Obama is one of them.
Amen.
I'm so grateful that he's the President of the United States, and I pray that he continue to do good in our country and he become a positive impact on our friends and allies around the world.
Amen. Yeah, that
Now,
he's doing.
I need some clarification because I've been hearing some Republicans, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I know you guys know what's up about Obamacare. Like Graham was talking about the majority of our people who are middle class and below. I've heard some Republicans say that it'll cost the people $100+ per month to get Obamacare. That seems to be a lot for a lot of people in our communities. Can no way pay $120 plus a month. Is that true? And correct me if I'm wrong. Just clarify that for me.
That's not true. That's not true.
Okay.
Anything comes from a Republican mouth, you have to question the source. They're being paid to say these things by insurance companies. It's the corporations trying to run and abuse the system as they always have. And they've made all this money all these years. They're even bigger than the bankers, you know.
And more directly to the point, the way I understand it, it is income sensitive as to what your responsibility and payment will be. If you're making a reasonable amount of dollars a month, then yours will be higher than someone making minimum wage or under minimum wage. I mean, it's on a sliding scale. So the Republicans are those persons that you refer to, I should say, they're doing that as a means to get people to partner with them in their futile argument. And at the end of the day, it's not about Obamacare. At the end of the day, it's about Obama administration. And getting rid of that administration.
The other thing I'll point out is that when we have people now who it's been years since they've seen a doctor, it's been years since they've seen a dentist, we have people coming in for crisis and critical care, sometimes children coming into an emergency room who haven't seen a doctor in 4 or 5 years. That ends up costing us a whole lot more than $100. And that's part of what the Obama program, the National Health Care Program, will help those children get their care on a regular basis so they won't end up with a $5,000 crisis because they haven't been to the doctor in a year.
And the biggest point, which most people miss, is that the pre-existing conditions that people were being denied because of health care. So if you had asthma, your premiums went way up. Or you couldn't get health care.
They wouldn't even let you get in.
They wouldn't let you in. And this is what the Republicans are fighting.
Insurance companies are about making money, getting money.
Well, thank you for the feedback, and continue and be successful, brothers.
Thanks for calling.
Brother. Next caller, please. We got one more caller. We got a few minutes left. Yes.
I just wanted to interject to the gentleman that just called. If he has a question like that, he can go to the healthcare.com, .gov, and he can get the phone number. And he can call, and they can give him the information. I mean, I don't know why he thinks that you all have to inroad to the White House.
Well, we do.
If you want, but you have all the questions in terms of the health care program. So if you want to know something, I mean, for you to say $100 is a lot of money, I bet you spend more money during the football season. So you can spend that kind of money, but it's not $100 per whatever. You know, it's really easy to pick up the phone. It really is. And the people are very, very helpful.
Can you give our website again, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Now, that's very helpful that we can get responses like that. And we have 5 minutes to go, so I'd like to spend the next 5 minutes. Well, you might rerun, you might go to the third roll-in and save that for the last 2 minutes. All right? And, well, what do you think about today's show? We've covered quite a bit here. The Affordable Care Act, and this is the reason why the government's in default or about to go default.
I'll say this is the reason why people should be watching the Winston Gilchrist show.
The Gilchrist Experience.
The Gilchrist Experience, because again, MNN and Winston Gilchrist provide information that the for-profit networks do not do. Because they are profit-driven, because they are money-motivated, there are things that they cannot or will not cover. And that adds to the value of what you do here on a regular basis and what this network does for the people of Manhattan.
This is a labor of love. I don't get paid.
It shows.
I mean, in case y'all didn't know. I need a day job to do this. I have to go work for Reverend Sharpton, which is a joy in itself. So I don't even have a job. Everything I do is a labor of love. So,
thank you.
I mean, God has blessed me. Well, it comes with the name,
That's
you know.
Right.
Gilchrist. Power to the people.
Not just housing, but not just health, but housing. Another critical issue that we're going to have to look at, especially in New York as the election unfolds. I was watching part of the debate yesterday with Mr. Loader and Mr. de Blasio.
Okay, I missed that.
They're talking about building anywhere from 250,000, is it 25? 250,000 additional units of housing. It's got to be affordable housing.
Okay.
And people are being priced out. They're being priced out of apartments. I've said this before, the people in Harlem can't stay in Harlem anymore. They're being, gentrification means get out. Because if they're going to spend money to clean the streets and improve the neighborhood, that means you don't belong there. Other people belong there. But these are the settlers, they're not the pioneers. And we have to take care of the pioneers, the people that labored through the arduous days, months, and years that Harlem was struggling to stay alive. Those people who are still there should be allowed to stay.
Well,
as opposed to
run out
taking
of
care
time,
of
gentlemen,
investors.
and I really enjoy what you've had to say, Reverend Williams, always Graham Weatherspoon, and Owen Rogers. And the God in me loves the God in you, and the devil in me is at peace with the devil in you. So,
wow. A house divided amongst itself cannot stand.
So don't call him.
Wow.
The devil in you.
That's
right.
a provocative thought.
Hey, Peter, get the
I
head.
just add something to it there. God bless. And I just run the roll in. I appreciate it. God bless you.
Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?